Today we are going to learn sum and difference formulas of trigonometric functions. Uh, we are supposed to know that, ladies and gentlemen, if you are adding two angles of sine, you are going to write this as a sine alpha times cosine beta plus cosine alpha times sine beta. So if this is positive, then this is going to positive as well. What if you have a cosine function? If you are adding two angles with the cosine function, you are going to write them cosine alpha times cosine beta minus sine alpha times sine beta. What is the key point you are supposed to be careful here is if you are adding, you are going to subtract. And the last one is if you are adding two angles with tangent function, you are going to write this tangent alpha plus tangent beta over 1 minus tangent alpha times tangent beta. And also there are different formulas of the trigonometric functions. If you are subtracting two angles with sine function, if this is negative, this is going to be negative as well. If you are subtracting two angles with cosine function, if this is negative, then this is going to be positive. These are the key points. So how we are going to apply those identities into the question? What is the exact value of sine 75? First of all, ladies and gentlemen, remember that in the previous topics, we know that there are two special triangles. 30, 60, 90. This is one of the special triangle. The second one is 45, 45, 90. There are two special triangles. How can I write 75 either adding of two special triangle angles or the difference of two special angles? You can write the sine 75 as a sine 45 plus 30. Do we know that how to write the identity of adding two angles with the sine function? For example, what I mean, sine alpha plus beta can be written sine alpha times cosine beta plus cosine alpha times sine beta. I am going to use this idea to be able to find the value of sine 75. Alright, if you assume that alpha is 45 and beta is 30, you can write that sine 45 times cosine 30 plus cosine 45 times sine 30. Do we know that what is the sine 45? If we draw the triangle 45, 45, 90, we know that if the length of the side is 1, then the hypotenuse will be radical 2. Same thing if we draw 30, 60, 90 special triangle, if the side opposite of the 30 degree is 1, then the hypotenuse is going to become 2. Then the length of the side, which is opposite of 60, is going to become 1 times radical 3. So by using those special triangles, I can find the value of each trigonometric value. Sine 45 is going to become 1 over radical 2 or radical 2 over 2 times cosine 30 is going to be radical 3 over 2 plus cosine 45 is going to be radical 2 over 2 as well times sine 30 is 1 over 2. If you combine this, you will get radical 2 times radical 3 is going to be radical 6 over 4 plus radical 2 times 1 is radical 2 over 4. If the denominators are same, you can add numerator. Radical 6 plus radical 2 over 4 is your answer. So this is sine 75. This is how we are using sum or difference formula to find the value. Next, what is the exact value of each expression? Tangent 15. First, this is the question. How can I write the tangent 15 as a sum of two or difference of two spatial angles? I can write tan 15 as a tangent 45 minus 30. And I'm going to remind you, how can you get tangent alpha minus beta? This is going to be tangent alpha plus, so minus tangent beta over 1 plus tangent alpha times tangent beta. So if you assume that alpha is 45 and beta is 30, you can write it down tangent 45 minus tangent 30 over 1 plus tangent 45 times tangent 30. Alright, we need to find those values. To be able to find tangent 45, let me remind you how to find. We know that if the length of the side of the 45, 90 is 1, then the hypotenuse is going to radical 2. From here, tangent 45 is 1. If you draw 90, 30, 60 spatial triangle, if the side of the 30, if the side which is opposite of angle 30 is 1, then the hypotenuse is going to be 2. Then the side opposite of 60 will be radical 3. Now what is the tangent 30? Tangent 30 is radical 3 over 3. Over 1 plus 1 times radical 3 over 3. If you simplify this, you will get 3 minus radical 3 over 3 over 3 plus radical 3 over 3. If we use keep, change, flipped, you will get 3 minus radical 3 over 3 times, flip the denominator, 3 over 3 plus radical 3. If we simplify this, the answer is going to be 3 minus radical 3 over 3 plus radical 3. We don't leave the denominator with the radical sign. That's why we need to expand both numerator and denominator by 3 minus radical 3 over 3 minus radical 3. Then you will get, if you distribute, you will get 9 minus 3 radical 3 minus 3 radical 3 plus 3 over 9 minus 3. From here you will get, if you combine, you will get 12 minus 6 radical 3 over 6. If you simplify that, you will get the answer 2 minus radical 3 is your answer. This is next question. What is the exact value of each expression? So sine minus alpha over 12. First of all, this is radian form. Negative pi over 12 is radian form. You can think about this. Actually, negative pi over 12 is negative 15. This is negative 15. And negative 15 can be written 30 minus 45. Actually, I am looking for this expression, this negative 15 can be written in radian form, negative pi over 12 is equal to 30 is degree form. I can convert this in radian form, and 30 is going to be pi over 6. And 45 is pi over 4. Which means that, actually what I'm looking for, sine negative pi over 12 can be written sine pi over 6 minus pi over 4. So let me remind you what is the difference formula for sine. Sine alpha minus beta can be written sine alpha times cosine beta minus cosine alpha times sine beta. The same idea we are going to apply to this expression. Sine pi over 6 times cosine pi over 4 minus cosine pi over 6 times sine pi over 4. You can also use two special triangles, 45, 45, 90, and we know that if the length of the sides are 1, hypotenuse is going to be equal to radical 2. If you have 30, 60, 90 special triangle, if the side opposite of angle 30 is 1, then the hypotenuse is going to become 2, then the side opposite of 60 will be radical 3. Now, let's substitute all this value of trigonometric function. Sine pi over 6, which means that sine 30 is 1/2 times cosine pi over 4. Cosine pi over 4 means cosine 45, which is radical 2 over 2, minus cosine 30 is radical 3 over 2 times sine pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. When you combine this, you will get radical 2 over 4 minus radical 6 over 4. You can write it down. Radical 2 minus radical 6 over 4 is your answer. What is the exact value of cosine negative 105? First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you, remember that cosine function is even function. What does that mean? Cosine negative alpha is equal to cosine alpha. This is even function property. So I can also write it down. Cosine negative 105, actually this is equal to cosine 105. It's the same thing. So after that, ladies and gentlemen, you need to focus on how we can write the 105 as a sum or difference of two special angles. Cosine 105 can be written cosine 60 plus 45. And before continue, I would like to remind you, cosine alpha plus beta can be written cosine alpha times cosine beta minus sine alpha times sine beta. If you assume that alpha is 60 and beta is 45, you can write it down. Cosine 60 times cosine 45 minus sine 60 times sine 45. If you draw two special triangles, 30, 60, 90, if this is 1, then this is going to be 2, this is going to be radical 3. If you draw 45, 45, 90 triangle, if the sides are 1, the hypotenuse is going to be radical 2. Now you can find the value of each trigonometric function. Cosine 60 is 1/2 times cosine 45 is radical 2 over 2 minus sine 60 is radical 3 over 2 times sine 45 is radical 2 over 2. If you combine it, you will get radical 2 over 4 minus radical 6 over 4. If you combine it, you will get radical 2 minus radical 6 over 4 is cosine negative 105. This is your answer.